Order. The first item on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Van Oz, would you lead us in the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 2 is roll call. Mr. Moran is here. Mr. Rathel. Mr. Van Oz. Mr. Tenova.
Here.
Mr. Manns is excused. Mr. Hornby. Mr. Filarski. Item number 3 is the addition or deletions to the agenda.
Move approval as submitted.
Motion by Mr. Rathel. Supported by Mr. Filarski to approve the agenda as submitted. All those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. Motion carries. Item number 4 is the financial report for October 2019. We are currently 58% through our fiscal year. We have budgeted revenues of $887,035. Our revenue to date is $549,744, which is 62% of our budget. Our budgeted expenditures for the year are $887,035. Our year-to-date encumbrances and expenditures are $741,793, which equals 84% of our budget. We have capital reserves as of the end of October of $429,628, and we have a past due rent of $4,310. Mike, is there anything you'd like to point out on the financial report?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The budget is tracking along well. You see the expenditures are high. If you recall at our last meeting, I noted the first payment for Building 6162, the warehouse portion over there to D&G Construction, came out of our funds, and then the loan balance will kick in for when the remaining bills come in when Building 63 is complete. The balance looks a little wonky right now. We'll kind of balance that out at the end of the year. But that's what you see there on the Commerce Park expenditure side. It says minus $172,000. That's that $200,000 payment coming out. So I'll work with the county on see if we can get that balanced out, or I'll break out the numbers for you next time so you can kind of see how we're tracking along better with that payment out of the budget there. And that's obviously why you see the capital reserves taking a little bit of a dip, but that's all approved and planned by us. So tracking along well.
Anyone have any comments or questions for Mike on the budget? On the financial report?
Yeah, I do, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Rathel.
The fuel farm inventory, Mike,
I couldn't get to it before the meeting. We just got a load of Jet A-in and avgas before the winter time, so we'll probably top off the avgas tank. So I'd say if I had to take a whack at it, I'd probably say the 100 low leads around 10 grand and the Jets probably around the similar. 8 to 10,000. And once we get that extra half load, 100 low lead in, it'll go up a little more. We'll probably have more like 14,000 in that tank. So I can try to email you some updated numbers on that. I just didn't get a chance to pull the inventory.
Mike, anything new on the past due rents?
No, the only addition we've had on there, the Marshall one we'll write off. That was a small storage on Grow Road, and the tenant moved out for a while, and the accounting just I caught that as an error. The total past due account's 400, so we're going to write that one off. The Anderson one is a hangar number 1 tenant, and we're experiencing some problems with that, so I'm going to try to probably remove that tenant. And Stanley and Associates is a new one. They're a long-time tenant, so I need to catch up with them and see what's going on with that. They had some issues with the unit, but those have been taken care of, so I'll touch base with that and see if we can get that one on a plan or squared up in the next month.
Thanks. Any other comments or questions for Mike? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the financial report.
so moved.
Motion by Mr. Rathel. Support by Mr. Tenova. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries. Item number 5 is the manager's report. Item 5A is Building 63 subdivide update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a brief update here. We're still tracking along well. The last of the 14 by 14 overhead doors have been installed, so all exterior work other than a little bit of trim is complete for 14 by 14 doors, man doors. All the concrete driveways and stoops for the doors have been poured. In terms of the interior, we're wrapping up electrical right now. Over half the units have their LED lighting installed. The radiant tube heaters are all fully installed. We're expecting gas meters to be delivered by DTE hopefully tomorrow, so we can get the heat on in that space and make sure we're safe. It's still warm in there now, but obviously the temps are dropping here, and we want to make sure we start getting some heat in the building. So the system's been pressure tested and passed, and we've gone through inspections with the township, and everything to date is passed. So no problems there. We're tracking along. We're tight on the December 1st deadline, but the contractor's aware of that, and we're pushing pretty hard to get it done. So I think we'll be on track. There might be one or two very small things I got to button up afterwards. I don't think it'll be an inconvenience for the tenants if they do. So everything else is tracking along well. All 8 units are pre-leased. I'm still waiting for the attorney to kind of review our use clause. I'm hoping he left me a voicemail today that he had. Hopefully tomorrow we'll catch up and kind of make sure that everything's up to snuff on that, so I can get the leases out to the tenants, because we're kind of getting down to the deadline on getting those approved and signed for December 1st move-in. So other than that, everything I think is coming along well with the building.
Any questions for Mike on the 63 build-out? Hearing none, we'll move on to, we're going to skip item number 6 or 5B. Move on to item 5C, which is the Island Stowaway update.
Mr. Chair, just another brief update. I know, I think the commission saw an email update I gave. It's pretty similar to that. I mean, they have a purchase agreement in place at Island Stowaway to take over the business and the land lease. It was not ready for this meeting because we kind of bumped our meeting early. So I'll talk to the commission, I think, maybe after this meeting, and see what dates line up. If he's not ready by the 18th, because I know a few of us are going to be absent for that. So we can maybe look at a later date in November, or an early December date. I'll try to feel the purchaser out on that, because they do have a request and interest in taking quite a bit more land in our Commerce Park for development under a land lease. And I've requested that the potential purchaser, put together a full site plan, kind of a budget, and give us kind of some examples of what they're looking to do on the facility. So I think the commission should have an opportunity to review at least the site plan. I'll email it to you, I would expect, in the next week and a half. And then we can get together for a meeting, let you guys spend some time with it, and be able to ask any questions of the purchaser. So the way I'm kind of viewing this now, and maybe you guys can give me some feedback if you'd like to see it differently, is, I think the additional parcels is kind of contingent on the deal, or it would change the deal if it's not included at least a little bit of land. So my initial thought was to have the potential purchaser come to us with the transfer for the indoor storage that Island Stowaway currently has in our Commerce Park. That's roughly a few thousand square foot unit. And then the land lease for the entire storage operation there. And then we can also approve the additional land lease pending environmental and future development plans, something along those lines, to kind of give them some reassurance that we're interested in, as long as everything else checks out and is workable.
Comments for Mike? Any feedback? Anybody disagree with the way he's suggesting we move forward? No? Okay. Guess you got your direction, Mike.
Okay.
You're going in the right direction.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I missed something too on number 5A, if you don't mind if I go back there for
Nope,
1 second. I
go
included something in your packet. I think trying to remember, one of our previous meetings, I think it was requested that we look at renaming Building 63 to kind of help brand the Commerce Park a little bit and kind of give it more of an exciting name than Building 63. I think it's okay if we use that internally for our own reference. I had Angela do some background and use her marketing background there for a little bit of some ideas. And a couple of the ideas we kind of came up with was looking at the streets around there. The building has a Meridian address, but Kitty Hawk is the road that runs by our existing tenants, Dave's Hot Rod Garage and Payette and Associates, but the road dead ends at Building 63. And Kitty Hawk was obviously USS Kitty Hawk, an aircraft carrier. And we thought it was interesting that the aircraft carrier, the USS Kitty Hawk, was a Class 63 aircraft carrier. So there's a lot of naval history there, and we were trying to play on that a little bit. And a couple of the names we wanted to throw out and just see if anything stuck with you guys. It was like a Kitty Hawk hub, the Kitty Hawk super complex. The reason we added the word super in there is it was a super aircraft carrier, the large size, so they always added super carrier status. And then the nickname for the USS Kitty Hawk was the Battle Cat. So, I mean, that's a little more of a playful term. I would look at Kitty Hawk Hub or Complex as kind of more of a formal term, but we wanted to kind of pick the commission's brain on if you guys liked either of those ideas to kind of tie in our historical significance with the building number there and come up with something.
Any reaction to the name? Anybody like it, dislike it?
That's fine too. Yeah, you guys can spend some time with it and give me some feedback, whatever you'd like.
I'm just shooting from the hip, Battle Cat, no.
Yeah, that's much more of a playful one, and yeah, I personally like the more formal Kitty Hawk and some kind of affix to that, whether it's just the complex or the hub. I think any of those are interesting.
So I
Mr.
think,
Rathel.
so I think the way to approach this is the way that Ron is approaching our landscaping plan. You basically look at the entire complex, right, and tie everything together. And then that way it all looks and feels the same, and it's easier to brand,
Sure.
the entire facility. So I certainly like the idea of, Kitty Hawk and, all the streets there, Midway,
Yep.
are all aircraft carriers. So
Saratoga,
that's why
yeah.
they named those streets. So I don't mind doing that for the buildings, even this Township Hall building, right? I mean, this could have a name that's Navy Historic. So I think that if we look at the entire facility of what could fit into the branding of the entire facility as naval history and specifically aircraft carriers, if that's what we want, I think that we just need to find out what buildings would be named and try to name them in a
Sure,
kind
some
of
kind of organized fashion.
or a logical manner, So I like it, but I just don't want to throw a name on one building,
Okay.
Because then you're just chasing things. It's not very uniform. So,
Yeah.
but I certainly like the Kitty Hawk, and I agree if Angela does that and looks at the entire airport facility and comes up with a plan to kind of bring, with the landscape plan, right? Because all the signs and everything have to kind of fit. I don't think there's a better name for that particular building than Kitty Hawk. I mean, it is Building 63. It's been forever, and now we have Kitty Hawk as CVA 63. So I like it, but we need to kind of expand it more,
Sure.
in my opinion.
I would agree with Mr. Rathel. Coming up with a plan for the entire
Yeah.
complex, I think, is a good idea. So why don't, as Mr. Rathel suggested, why don't you get with Angela and come back with something?
Okay. Yeah, we'll definitely take a look at that.
Any other comments? Hearing none. So anything else on Island Stowaway, Mike, that you want to bring up?
Nope. Other than you guys should be seeing it. Something out of me in the next few weeks in terms of that, and I think we can talk after the meeting and see if we can line up a date to meet, or late November, early December, to get that approval. They've informed me that they're trying to close before year end, which I think will be a little tight for them if environmental and some other things have to take place, but that's between the two parties. So, two parties, and pending our approval, obviously, we reserve the right to approve that sale or not approve the new purchaser of the business. So,
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Rathel.
I do have a comment on the lots. So if you look at our master plan, the storage where the Perry complex is now, the expansion of that was to the north, right? There's a lot there between Perry's facility and recreation. And that was kind of the area where, we wanted to have storage. It made sense, right? We're pushing it back. Now this proposal is actually pushing it all the way potentially to Grow Road, right? So it'll be on Grow Road and it'll be
Correct.
on Midway.
yep.
I'm not opposed to that, okay? I just want to say, because I think that, and I told you, Ron has to jump in on the landscaping to make everything look good. So I'm not opposed to doing that, but it kind of, what's that lot to the north ever going to be? It's not going to be anything, right? if we move to the south for what we wanted the lot to the north to be, and you guys are gonna like look at me kind of funny, but let's just figure out maybe how we can let the recreation department use it, because we don't have any use for it at that point. There's nothing that's gonna go all the way in the back there outside of storage, unless we wanna put a fence around it and have outside storage and try to rent that. So I think that we just need to think about that, because it kinda landlocks that parcel and removes it from what we wanted it originally used for if we go to the south with the outside, with the storage.
Mike, was that ever brought up to the prospective purchaser about to the north?
The purchasers really indicated that they want some frontage, and in their opinion, they feel it's important to have, being Grow Road. So
But
yeah,
you
we
did offer that
Yeah.
to the north was available.
Correct.
They just didn't have any interest.
Yep.
'Cause, I mean, I'm not, I'm not in favor of giving land, right? I mean, we have to manage in perpetuity for future revenue opportunities, but literally, I can't imagine what would go there because we wouldn't want any more storage, right? I think that if this project goes through, I think we're done with that. I mean, there's really not gonna ever be another need. And development's moving south. So if they go to Grow, and we do have, Midway, that opens up other potential development up front, right, farther to Grow Road. That lot back there is just sitting there, and I don't know if it's really worth hanging on to at that point. And we all know that recreation could use that.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Van Oz?
been really cold last couple of days. I think I know why. I think it just froze over. John wants to give property to recreation.
I am a little bit surprised to hear Mr. Rathel suggest that.
Well, I just don't say it lightly, it's, but as a good
Hey, takes the
steward
pressure-
of,
Takes the pressure off of me, John. Thanks, buddy.
yeah. So anyway, I'm just throwing that out, and I think it's a legitimate
You're getting
conversation.
soft, John.
I have grandkids now, they're growing up on the island, I'm back into recreation.
You're not on that commission too, are you?
No. Anyway, okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to our action items. Item number 6A is Building 63 Subdivide Contract Extension. We have a resolution in front of us that reads, based on the recommendation from the Airfield Commerce Park Manager and approval of the Groseal Township Board, the Airfield Commerce Park Commission hereby extends the Building 63 Subdivide Contract with D&G Construction in the amount not to exceed $160,000. The initial $700,000 loan shall be deferred for 1 year, and the additional funding shall come from an internal loan through the township at the same rate, being paid back within that time frame. The contract extension is pending the Commerce Park Commission final approval.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Rathel.
Support.
Support by Mr. Tenova. Any further discussion?
Yeah, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Van Oz?
The approval through the Township Board was not without some controversy, but the person that voiced the biggest opposition to it, voiced opposition to the original project. I was opposed to bringing it forward as an add item because of the size of the contract. But I felt that I was kind of forced to vote for it because had I voted against it, it may have killed the project. So now I want to move forward and see if we can't make this thing work. My question is, Mike, do you have a written proposal from the contractor? And if so, why isn't it here?
I have an email. I mean, I can have him put it in a formal proposal.
Okay.
Basically, gave me a not to exceed
You-
one hundred
you
sixty
realize
thousand.
we're circumventing the bid process to extend the contract. So we're going away from the bid process. So at very least, we need some paperwork on this project. My second question is, or comment is, what kind of matrix are you going to use so that I can pay this as a time and material not to exceed? Or is the contractor going to give us pay schedules, invoices, markups? Otherwise, are you saying that we're going to pay $81,000 apiece for these 2 units?
No, the contractor, when we took it to the township board, gave me a not to exceed price, and he's going to give me a firm number before we move through with the 2 units. So I'll have a written proposal for a
So
set.
you don't even know what it's going to cost.
A
us,
set
and you're
dollar
asking
amount.
for an approval.
I had a not to exceed number. I mean, this isn't really. We're not going back through a bid process. We're extending the contract with.
Well, you're not, because the original process, the original contract, was not written as not to exceed.
Correct.
This one is. So this is different. And what I need to know is, because we have a lot of naysayers on this, not particularly on this commission, but there's a lot of naysayers out there that are looking at us pretty tight here.
Mm-hmm.
And what I need to know is, what matrix are you going to use to ensure that this contract comes in as a not to exceed? Is the contractor going to give me an itemized breakdown so I can write checks?
He'll give us a firm proposal with a number on it that doesn't exceed 160,000 before he starts the work, and we'll pay off that.
I don't know that I'm comfortable bidding on a number we don't know.
Mike, when you get the written confirmation from what he emailed to you,
Mhm.
is that done on a lump sum basis, or does he break that down per each of the items?
Lump sum.
Lump sum.
That was
okay,
what
so,
the original contract was for as well.
Okay, so there was no breakout on the
No.
original contract of, like, electrical was X, mechanical was X,
No.
architectural was,
He broke
There
out.
was a partial breakdown, Ron.
Yeah, there was a
in-
partial
in the bid
breakdown. That's correct.
process.
There was a lump sum payment, but he gave a partial breakdown of what electric, mechanical, and paint would be. But it was not detailed line items based on square footage numbers. It was lump sum with a breakout.
okay, but I
That's
mean,
what
there
the-
were categories that he broke
Correct.
out for each.
Correct, and that
for certain
the updated
items.
proposal will have the same thing. I'll
Okay,
make sure of that.
would you make sure that you request that from him?
Yep.
And basically, that's the reason I didn't want this to move forward when it moved forward. Because I don't think you're ready for it. And I don't know that, I don't know how you bid on a contract of $160,000 when you don't know what that number is. I mean, this is township money. This is taxpayer money we're dealing with here. And I'm not comfortable with that unless, if you can give me a matrix breakdown, I wouldn't have any problem with this. But I don't know that I'm comfortable voting for an unknown in the amount of $160,000.
Okay.
Okay,
I mean, I guess the other comment I'll make is we know what you'll see in one of the breakdowns. You know, the lump sum we were paying per unit was 85,000. I don't recall the exact number off the top of my head. I think it was
How much?
85,000. 85,000 per unit.
According
And-
to the numbers I have here, it's 81,000,
These units came in at 81,000. That's what I'm saying. We know we're
Oh.
getting.
and the other units, the ones without the driveways and cement, was 61,000.
I'd have to look at the numbers.
I did look at them,
Okay.
that's why I'm saying it. I don't know, I guess, I'm not trying to, certainly don't wanna slow this process down, but it's your responsibility to bring us a detail And you haven't done that. And I'm not trying to make you look bad, but I am telling you that this commission has to proceed on an unknown now. And that's the reason I wasn't comfortable going forward with the township board. And I'll be glad to listen to arguments. I mean, I'm
Well, I think the reasoning of using the same contractor is because he's on site, he's there. It
Sure.
makes a whole lot more sense to have him continue to do the work than to finish what he's doing and bring in a brand-new contractor that isn't familiar with the site already and, already has his workforce lined up that's done the work that he's already done, excuse me, on the other units. It certainly, in my experience, makes a lot more sense to continue with the existing contractor that's on site. He doesn't have to leave site. He can just continue to finish it. So it makes a lot of sense. I do agree with Mr. Van Oz that it would be nice to have that breakdown of
Sure.
the individual categories so we have a good idea as what it is compared to the others. But I think we have a number of 160,000 that we know it won't go beyond that number, and it could certainly come in less than that. So that's what's before us tonight. Is there any other comments? Mr. Filarski?
I tend to agree with Ted. So, I mean, you can't just take an average of what it costs per unit because the guy's obviously got a lot of fixed costs in there, and as he continues to build out, the cost should go down with each one. The electrical runs are in and drawings are done, so, I mean, I think you need to see the number, and I think, if you give him 160, is he gonna take 160? Because he knows he's got a limit.
The man built 8 units. We're asking him to build 2 more. You would think after building 8 units, you'd know what the cost of that units are. I mean, this isn't rocket science. I mean, I was a contractor for a long time, and if I built 8 widgets, I know what the 9th and the 10th are gonna cost. Well, it could.
There's, if I may make a comment, there's some variables in these 2 units. They have bathrooms that are in between them, so we are renovating 3 stalls and 2 urinals and a full bathroom that we're not doing in the other units. There's added cost for that's in the center.
Why isn't it here? Why don't we see that? Mike, you need to do the job. I'm probably gonna vote for this, but I think a point needs to be made here. This project is probably gonna cost us $160,000, which is okay. It's a constant number, but this is not acceptable.
Any other comments?
I would just add
Mr.
that
Hornby.
I would expect that averaging doesn't always make sense. It certainly should not be more than the average price of the initial 8 units, given knowledge of the project and continuation with the subcontractors and all the things that would make it sense, that would be efficient to do it now. So I would like to see that, that
Sure.
comparison and try and focus on that.
But I guess I'll make the comment too. I always add some fluff into my stuff in case something pops up, and that's why we did a not to exceed initially. But I'll get, the written proposal from the contractor obviously before we start, and can definitely pass that along.
Well, I think it just comes down to, first of all, I'd like the naysayers, please come to the meeting, come to the next meeting, give me a call, go see Mike, talk to Chairman Moran. This project was ROI'd very, very quickly. It was well thought out. Financially, it is a great investment for the township and a tremendous opportunity for revenue, which we've already seen for the airport. We built 8 units. They're not even complete yet, and we have leases for all 8 units, and we have 3 people that are waiting to sign the lease here for these other 2 buildings. So Certainly, it's easy to be a naysayer. It's a lot of money. We take it very serious here. No decision financially at this airport is ever made flippantly. It is made with a lot of thought, debate, discussion by some of the smartest people in business that I know. We are doing very well financially at this airport, and we spend our money wisely. We take no taxpayer dollars to run this facility. We generate all of our revenues through income with leases, and we work with the FAA, the MDOT, and yes, every once in a while with the township to allow them to invest in their own facility to generate more revenue for this facility, to keep it out of the taxpayers' hands, or a need to go out for a millage, which we've never had to do and have no intention of ever doing that. So this project has been a tremendous opportunity, and we're showing great signs of success. This particular project came up because we quickly filled 8 units. We had the ability to do 10. We went for 8 because we wanted to be a little conservative. Everything went very quickly. The contract that we have is for a completion date of December 1st. They have to be done with the 8 units. If we felt that if that contractor leaves the site and they leave, they go on another job, okay, what would it cost for us to get them back? Could we get them back? When could we get them back? If we had to get somebody else, do we go through the whole bid process again and go through this? And to me, it made no sense. And the ROI of a not to succeed, I agree with you. Mike Duker will not just go, hey, I'll take the easy way out. We got 160, so dude, just do it for 160. He will manage this process, and like Ted said, he'll come up with this matrix, and he will manage this process like he's always done since he's been here. So the project is a huge success. The 2 units that we can build are relatively easier to build. It's the farthest we could go in that building without another major renovation, which we can't. Certainly, I would never ask the township for anybody for money to go farther out. But we built this, even with the 8s, we built it with 10 in mind. We had an opportunity to quickly lease another 2 units, which generates revenue. So the question comes down to this. Forget about all that. Forget about the 8 units. Forget about the $700,000, which, by the way, the airport would pay back in its budget that we've had the last 5 years if we didn't generate $1 of revenue by leasing those out. We spent $700,000 to do 8 units, and if we did not lease one of them out, we still had a balanced budget this year, and we're on track, as Mike just said. Now we have 8. Tremendous financial windfall for this airport. Forget about that. Will you vote for $160,000 to do 2 units for a 1-year note? That's it. You don't want to do it? Then vote no. $160,000 for 2 units. Mike says that he's going to be able to get a contract to lease those 2 out. So that means that we can not to exceed, hopefully less, matrix out, manage professionally for $160,000 to get 2 units to generate more revenue. Do we want to do that? That's the question. I'm going to vote, yeah, okay? But I respect other people's opinions, and if you vote no and you don't want to do it and you don't want the other 2 units, we got 8. Let's just walk away. Don't do it. We sit at this airport conservatively every year looking at ways that we can try to generate a little more revenue, and it's tough. We don't have a lot of opportunities. Our buildings need maintenance, which we try to take care of. Our runways need maintenance, which we try to take care of. Our T-hangar facilities need maintenance. We have to generate revenue as we continue, because if we don't, we're dying. If we don't continue to grow in our revenue, then we're gonna go backwards because our expenses are gonna keep going. This is a very old facility. So I don't wanna complicate this at all. It's very simple. $160,000 not to exceed. Would I be disappointed if Mike comes in and says, man, I can't believe it, it was $160,000? Yeah, I'd be kinda disappointed. It was like, dude, I mean, really? But if it is, I'm okay with it. $160,000 for 2 units that we should be able to get a contract here in the next day or two to fill those 2 units up.
Any other comments? Hearing none, we have a motion by Mr. Rathel, supported by Mr. Tenova. All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say no.
No.
The record reflect that Mr. Van Oz voted no. Moving on to our action item number 6B, the Virtual Sport Entertainment Venue LLC lease. We have a resolution in front of us that reads, based upon the recommendation from the Groseal Airport Commerce Park Manager, the Groseal Airport Commerce Park Commission hereby approves a new lease between Virtual Sports Entertainment Venue LLC and Groseal Municipal Airport. A formal lease will be developed pending approval by the Commission. Terms of the proposed lease agreement are listed in the history, purpose, and explanation section of this resolution. And for details, the lease is to lease these 2 units that we just approved for $160,000, which are units number 9 and 10, for a 3-year lease with a 2-year option.
Is this the lease for the 2 units?
Correct. I'm due to
You know,
take the deposit for both units tomorrow. This lease, which is roughly $30,000 a year, the terms and conditions have already been agreed to. It's a 3-year initial lease for an indoor golf.
You know
indoor
what,
golf facility.
if we lost the support of our liaison, our board liaison for this project, I ain't going forward. We're in this together, or we're not in it at all.
John, I need to take exception to that.
Ted, you are our board liaison, okay?
That's right,
And you voted for this at the board level.
I did. And I ask a simple question at this level as to a matrix, had this term not to exceed. You know, I have a fiduciary duty that's over and above this commission level.
Right, and you demonstrated that fiduciary responsibility at the board meeting the other night when you voted for this project.
Because I wanted to see this thing go through.
All right.
We don't have anything formal here. I don't have a proposal from the contractor, and I'm gonna spend $160,000 with nothing in writing. I have a problem with that. I'm not at all opposed to and I echo your statements on everything that you said. I am not opposed to the project. I'm opposed to the process. Now, the process is an internal process that somebody has to maintain.
Right, but the motion that I just made was for the 2 units not to, it had nothing to do with the process. I
It
understand.
did have to do with the process because the motion that you made is not to exceed $160,000. And I want to know how we're going to get there. That's all I asked. And nobody gave me that answer.
All right, then you know what? I'm not approving the lease until we have the support of the township board liaison to this commission. I am not gonna move forward at this airport, Commerce Park, without full support of everything that we do with our airport liaison and township board, because we cannot move forward together unless we have that.
Then I think it's probably time we appointed a new liaison.
We have a resolution before us. I'll entertain a motion. Entertain a motion. Hearing none, The motion dies for lack of a motion. Move on to item number 7, which is a subcommittee reports. We have none tonight. Item 9 is discussion items. Anyone have any discussion items? Moving on to item number 9, which is the chairman's report. I have nothing new to report tonight. Item number 10 is our public comment. Seeing no one here for public comment, next item is our motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Rathel,
Support.
supported by Mr. Tadova to adjourn at 10 after 7. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carries.